Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome today to Monday Night Football, episode 4, brought to you by Elliott Media. A very special show we got today for our people.
It's big time.
Special guest, special announcements.
Hey, we're up in our game today.
Yes, we are definitely up in our game. Todd is up in our game.
We're way above our level.
Or is that our level?
We're kicking out of our coverage. We have a special guest, Sebastian Salazar, that will be on here shortly. He is going to talk about anything and everything Dalton, and plus his experience here and things that have happened after he left Dalton.
I'm excited to hear his stories.
Yes, but really quick, let's go ahead and get straight off to the OptiLink scoreboard. We had quite a few. We had quite a bit of games, but not as much as before. Really quick. Northwest both boys and girls 10-0 wins over Ridgeland. Cass girls winning, or Southeast beating Cass girls 4-0. Southeast going down to Cass 1-0. Dalton girls beating Kennesaw Mountain 2-1. Dalton boys defeating Vesuvius Hills 4-0. Christian Heritage girls going down or beating Haralson County 2-1, and their boys winning 9-1. Dalton Academy girls losing 4-0, and then Dalton Academy boys 2-0 win over Fenton County. Then we had Cahulla Creek playing LFO, girls losing in PKs, so they lose 3-2. Boys winning 3-1 versus LFO. And then you had Dalton Academy losing to a very good Calhoun team 2-0, so the very respectable scoreline. And then finally, on Friday, we had Northwest girls beating Adairsville 3-1. Northwest boys beating Adairsville 3-0. North Murray playing Christian Heritage. Girls winning 4-1, and then North Murray boys winning 2-1. Southeast going down to Allatoona, and they lost on both boys and girls side, 5-1 on the girls. Shout out to my niece Jazz Reel scoring the only goal, and then 2-1 on the boys side. Allatoona beating Southeast, and then Dalton playing Woodland. Dalton girls winning 6-2, and then boys winning 5-0, and then Murray County girls playing Calhoun 8-0.
I love that shout out.
Yeah, I know. Always. Hey, if you're related to one, you're always going to get a shout out if you score.
As you should.
That's how it is.
But also, Todd, we had a good event last week. We had the Atlanta United unveiling of the mini first pitch. Anything you want to talk about that? In our last minute and a half that we have here on the show. Yeah,
not too much time to talk. No, it was a great event. I thought it went off without a hitch. I thought Believe Greater Dalton did a wonderful job. Dalton State girls and the national champion men's team came out and helped run that as well. Kids seemed to love it. Georgia tacos were great. We got an interview with Noah Cobb that we'll have coming up at the end of this segment. And I just thought it was a great day.
To add to the list of people that loved it, Atlanta United themselves loved it.
How much did they love it?
I think they loved it enough to officially declare us Soccertown USA and post it.
They did declare us now Soccertown USA on there. If you haven't seen it, you haven't seen it on our social media, on Instagram and Facebook. We've shared their post that they did for the unveiling of the pitch. And also, I was at the game this past weekend. They had that video play right before the game. So,
and then quickly, Juan, let's talk about that game you went to. So you probably just sat in the nosebleed section, right, with the rest of us?
We had originally 4 tickets that were gifted to us by one of my wife's ex-bosses.
Yeah.
She called, and then she had an upgrade.
Okay.
Yeah, we ended up sitting in some suites. They were
some suites.
The owner suite.
Who's the owner, Juan?
His name is Arthur Blank Morris, or Arthur
Would
Morris
we know
Blank.
him from anything?
They call him Uncle Arthur.
I don't know.
So we had an experience with. Thank you to Atlanta United for giving those, affording those opportunities to my wife. No one from work could make it, so we ended up going.
So Juan just ended up in Arthur's box. Great.
And when I tell you I was watching the game, I was literally midfield. I was straddling like one hit, butt in the middle. So, but with that, we're going to get ready to go to commercial break. But please watch this video of Atlanta United. Breaking in
got
the
Noah
first
Cobb,
pitch.
and we got the first goal.
Yes.
Hey, this is Todd of Monday Night Football. I'm coming to you from the dedication of the field here at the Matt Gatson Community Center. I'm joined by Noah Cobb. He is a Chattanooga native. Noah, what does it mean to you, you're an Atlanta United player, to come back to this community so close to home and to dedicate a field like this?
It means a lot. I think having fields like this that are accessible 24/7 to kids growing up and learning the game is huge. I didn't have something like this growing up, and I think kids being able to have this now is amazing.
And think you saw any future pros out here today?
I saw a couple ballers for sure.
And have you had a chance to sample the tacos?
I have not, but I'm about to. So,
all right. Thanks a lot, Noah. I appreciate your time.
Thanks.
All right, everybody. I'm going to say 3, 2, go, and then you will go on kick, okay? We ready? 3, 2, 1, kick! Congratulations, Dalton, Georgia. The Matt Gaston Community Center mini pitch is open.
I'm Dr. Michelle Little.
And I'm Dr. Kayla Gibo with Foundation Direct Family Care. We wanted to start a membership-based primary care practice.
But we're doctors, not business people.
I'm Kylie Roy with Biltwell Bank. I listen to their pitch and help them scale from startup to owning their own building.
Biltwell sees the value of small businesses in the community and supports their ingenuity.
Because every business owner doesn't have an MBA, our bank is Biltwell.
Member FDIC.
Who's up for some football?
That's not football. This is football.
And Eddie, there's one thing that we all can agree on.
That's it. North Georgia is the home for new and pre-owned vehicles.
And don't forget accessories, parts, service, and collision needs.
Claro que sí se puede. Come see us.
Hey,
That's our part.
And welcome back to Monday Night Football. And as we had mentioned previously in our intro, we told you we had a special guest. Todd's been putting that on all our social media platforms. And we have the honor of having Sebastian with us. Todd, I'll let you go into a little bit more because this is your guy. You brought him in. You were so proud to have him on. So let's go, Todd.
So Sebastian, welcome to the show. From Dalton, Georgia to Russia to Qatar and now back to Dalton, Georgia. Did you ever think you'd be coming on to do a soccer show surrounding Dalton, Georgia?
You know what? First of all, thanks for having me. I know we've been kind of kicking this around for a long time. I'm super thrilled to be on the show. I don't do a lot of podcasts, but when I do, it's usually just kind of random. But to be with folks from Dalton and Northwest Georgia is just awesome. Such a wonderful place that I got a lot of love for. What I would say is, I'm a little jealous and kind of kicking myself. Like, why didn't I think of this when I was there? I was on the football show that we had on Friday nights, and that was a lot of fun. But
we found those VHS tapes.
Oh, VHS. I hope we got some of those lined up. You definitely dated me there by saying it was VHS. No, but what I would say is, it's not a total surprise, right? That this is a thing. Soccer was a huge part of my experience in Dalton. It was huge within Northwest Georgia and Dalton when I was there, and so I'm super glad that you guys have a show there now. And in some ways, I look back and I think, wow, look how far it's come. But at the same time, the seeds were definitely there. They were already planted and they were already growing towards a city that would have its own soccer show. Which, let's be honest, if you look around the United States right now, I bet you there's not a ton.
Yeah, and you're correct. And Sebi, really quick, tell us about where you're from and your soccer experience. And obviously, you were in Dalton, so did you find some commonality with the Mexican-American community here while you were here?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm in D.C. right now. That's where I'm from, kind of the suburbs of D.C. My mom is from Mexico. She's from Mexico City, and my dad is from Western New York. So my dad is of an age that soccer wasn't really like a big part of his upbringing in the United States. He wasn't of immigrant parents. He grew up rural Western New York. I don't think he heard of soccer really until he got to college. My mom, of course, spent the first 25 years of her life in Mexico City. It was a huge part of her upbringing. Her family, her grandfather, my great grandfather, was like a diehard Real Madrid fan when he came over from Spain. And so, of course, he picked the biggest club in Mexico, Club America.
I was going to ask, America or Cruz Azul?
And so actually, it's funny. My mom grew up in the family house is much closer to Cruz Azul's old stadium, which is now their new stadium again. But we are Americanistas to the core. So it was kind of through my mom really that I think I was first exposed to soccer. I loved all sports, but really when the '94 World Cup hit, Mexico played 2 of their 3 group phase games here in DC at RFK, and life-changing experience. I remember their last game of the group phase, they needed a point to get out. It was 1-0 losing against Italy. You don't really come back from that. Marcelino Bernal hits a shot from outside the area to score to make it 1-1. And I celebrated. I was happy because I was a Mexico fan, but I turned to my mom and she's weeping. And in that moment, it was just, and then I started to cry. But even like a 10-year-old kid, I didn't really understand why, but I knew. And then from then on, I was just like soccer obsessed. And I think, one of the great parts of my experience in Dalton, aside from the broadcasting and like the launch pad it was for my career, was getting in touch with that part of me. I had, lived in the burbs here where there's a lot of diversity, but not a lot of Mexican specific like roots here in Washington, D.C. and in the suburbs. Then my college experience was Western Pennsylvania, like very white, just to be honest. So when I go to Dalton, I knew that one of the reasons that they had picked me was because I was bilingual and they thought maybe I could connect, with the WDNN audience at the time. But to get down there and to like find a team where all we were speaking was Spanish and go to quinceañeras of the sisters of the guys on the team. And like, I really was as a very kind of like Mexican American, it was at that point in my life, the most Mexican I'd felt, outside of my visits to Mexico. So it was an amazing experience connecting with the people of Dalton at that time, on a cultural level, aside from, the TV and this kind of soccer stuff. Although I did use, like, soccer was the tool for me to meet a lot of people in Dalton because, aside from the TV station where you met a lot of folks, I was on like 3 teams within a month of showing up, so I was meeting people through the field right away.
You must have been decent then.
I was right out of college and I had a really, really good senior year. I was in great shape. And I was pretty good. I could still fly around. The turf fields weirded me out a little bit. And they would put sand on them. So you're like slipping. It was so weird. It took me a while to get accustomed to that. But, and I could tell that there were some dudes who like, I look at him, I'd be like, this fat guy can't possibly be useful. But he knew how to work the turf and skin. And I was like, man. So I had a great time. I played in games. We played in the high school and they would fill it up for like the championship games. I remember, one of my very favorite stories of playing in Dalton is, in most of my career, I was like the one Latino kid or half Latino kid on the field. Then I go to Dalton, I was the only white or half white kid on the field. And so at first, like they would talk a lot of to me, but in Spanish, like totally not it to me, but about me. And then I'd be like, finally I'd like drop in something like about 20 minutes into the game and he'd be like, oh, he knew what we were talking about. And they would kind of refer to me. And this, it was a great honor. They would a lot of times be like, Landon, like Landon Donovan, which was to me, actually at the time an insult because I was a big Mexico fan and I hated the U.S. and Landon Donovan was like their best player. So in my head, Landon Donovan was a rival. They were calling me that, but like a little bit because they not really disrespected Donovan, but had like a thing for him. Because I think the Mexican fan actually really respected Landon Donovan, but also to kind of like get under my skin and to be like, hey, that's the fast white guy. I think is basically what it was translated to. So I had a great time, scored a lot of goals. Never told anybody I was a defender in college. I showed up, I was like, I'm either a 10 or a forward, because they hadn't seen me play. So it was great. Just a great time there, really.
Man, that's good. What a beautiful story about the mother and feeling the effect of the soul that the Mexican national team has on them. And we definitely have more questions coming, but I think right now it's time to go for a bit of a break, and then we'll be right back here.
Yes, sir.
Why should you choose OptiLink Internet?
I chose OptiLink because of the great local service.
We know computers, and OptiLink knows internet with high-speed symmetrical uploads and downloads.
My customers depend on me for safety and security, and I need fast and dependable internet. That's why I chose OptiLink.
Some people say you can't have fast internet. I say, oh, yes, you can with OptiLink.
Experience the difference. Call today, 706-529-1313.
If you could live anywhere, where would it be? And what would it be like? Open up a world of possibilities when you sell your home and make those dreams real. At ColdwellBanker.com, you can get an instant estimate on your home, compare cost of living city by city, and learn more about our revolutionary seller's assurance program. So it really is true. Your dreams don't have to be just dreams. At ColdwellBanker.com.
Now, welcome back to Monday Night Football, and here we are still with Seba. Salazar, and he was just talking about him playing on the taco fields. He called them the turf fields.
That's how you know. That's how you know
we call them the taco field, the Taco Bell fields.
Yep.
But Diego, you got a question. You got
absolutely. Love the story. You alluded to this while we were hearing your stories, but a little more focused on how did you end up becoming involved in broadcasting and ultimately in Dalton? Can you share a little bit about that experience, please?
Yeah. So I loved soccer. I loved playing it. I was obsessed with it. I liked all sports though, right? I kind of I followed all sports pretty intensely. As I was that kid that was always watching Sports Center, listening to sports talk radio. At some point around 15 or 16, I kind of realized hey, I'm probably not going to be a professional player. And earlier than that, I think 14 or 15. And I remember being like, well, what's the next closest thing to if you're not going to be a professional athlete? And the thing that popped into my head was the broadcaster, the play-by-play guy, literally that position. And so I just put it in my head, all right, that's what I want to be. And so in high school, when people would ask you that question, that's what I would say. And that's kind of what I wanted to do. So I left high school very focused on that. My college choice was I was a good enough player that there were some Division I schools that were looking at me, not with a full ride or anything, but with opportunity to come play on the team. But those schools, I didn't have so many schools after me that were Division I that I could be I want to pick one with a great broadcasting program, right? There was 3 and none of them had a broadcasting program. So then it was well, are you going to college to play soccer? Or are you going to broadcast? And I found a school that had a decent enough soccer team, had a radio station and a TV station where I could work. And I went to college and I spent every minute that I wasn't, partying or playing. Basically, I was in the radio station, in the TV station. I sunk my teeth into it, called a bunch of games. And when you get out of that, you want to get to work. And I remember when I got to my college, Westminster College in Western Pennsylvania, the dean sat me down. He said, "Oh, you really want to do this?" He almost tried to talk me out of it. You're going to have to go to Anchorage, Alaska. You're going to have to go to that to get your first on-air job. If you really want it, okay. And I remember being I'm down. And so I started sending tapes. I sent probably 30 tapes of my college work. And nobody called me back except for Calvin Means at WGNN in Dalton, Georgia. Maybe if I kept sending. But, I graduated in May, and that's when I was sending. And I got one call back in West Virginia, but that's I kind of knew somebody at the station. So that, that didn't count. But of just people picking out your tape out of a pile and saying, let me call this kid. It was Calvin Means in Dalton, Georgia. He called. He offered me a job for $15,000 a year, no health insurance, kind of sight unseen on both, other than he'd seen my VHS. But I wanted. He was like, "You're going to be one of our sports guys. We got 2 sports guys, Monday through Friday. Got this newscast and this Friday night football show." Wow. I said, "Hell yeah, I'm in." And then 3 days into my first week, the main sports guy, the sports director, took a job in Albany. So I was just there by myself, and they didn't replace him for 9-10 months, which at first might sound bad, but it was a crash course. Mm-hmm. I was running the sports department by myself for the first 10 months while learning to shoot on all the equipment. And, I think I spent maybe 13 months total. 16 months total in Dalton, but it was 3 years. It was so intense. And so I that was the first place I could get a job on air and TV and doing sports only. And that's what I wanted to do. So that's where I went. And I didn't know anybody within a 6-hour radius. I did it on a map. Damn, I don't know anybody, but it was the best. I know zero regrets. It was really random. And I never heard of Dalton, Georgia, or the carpet capital of the world, or any of that stuff. But
we're grateful for Calvin Means. We're grateful for Calvin Means for bringing it down.
Let's go, Calvin Means, the legend.
So when you were here, what was your experience with the soccer culture in high school? Obviously it had kind of just started to come into its own. Dalton had a state championship. They had that draw, and they had a joint state championship. Yeah. So what was your experience with the high school culture, soccer culture here? And did you develop any relationships with the coaches?
So the one thing I'll just say right away is I had come from, my college. So I was seeing pretty decent level play on a regular basis. And my high school had won the state championship my senior year in Maryland. We were a pretty good team. And like, I knew what good high school soccer was. And I remember the first games I watched in Dalton, I was like, damn, this is good. Like, these guys, not only is the level good, there was like an intensity to it, but the individual players like jumped off the page to me. I was like, I remember calling my college coach and being like, hey, you're a random D3 school. If you find a oil well, like, and you start pulling some of these kids up, like, you're gonna have something special. But then, I think I was there in 05 and 06. So I think I was there well before kind of the peak on, 2 years ago when everybody won in every classification was Northwest Georgia. Yeah. So I think in 03 and 04, like right before I got there, Dalton had been to like back-to-back finals, but like not won it. And so it was like they were on this quest. They didn't win it when I was there the one year that I did. They had a very good team, but like got to the quarters. Matt Cheeves, I remember, was the coach. I remember all the Mexican kids had a lot of fun with his name for Chivas. They would always kind of like say that. The only other program I remember only little is Christian Heritage was just launching their program at the time. And they had a coach who was like a dad. I forget his first name. It was Coach Seahorn. And he had launched a youth club there as well at the time, the Carpet Capital Soccer Club. And their first year, I was their U12 coach. We had the U12 Carpet Capital Soccer Club force of kids from the community. And it was honestly like a beautiful cultural experience for me. Coach Seahorn would lend me his like big SUV. So I'd have like 2 or 3 white kids who went to private school with 3 or 4 like working class Mexican kids who went to public school in the back. And they were like vibing over soccer on these hour-and-a-half bus rides to who the hell knows where to go to play this game. So I could see a very cool meshing. I saw some beautiful things there. So I did some coaching. And the high school was there, was on its way to being great and kind of dominant in the state of Georgia, but wasn't quite there yet. The one thing I would say is like, it's definitely not as developed as it is now. Beyond like this show, I think you guys have like USL League 2 team. There was a UPSL or was it NPSL team for a while.
Yeah.
Like none of that stuff existed. The community college didn't have a team. Which obviously it has like an epic team now, right?
Yep, just won a national championship.
You're pulling from such a talent pool. Of course, you're going to be amazing. So none of that existed. It was really high school and the Saturday and Sunday league that was the base of the kind of Dalton soccer community. And I was definitely like well involved in those. And I remember some of the players on that Dalton team. There was a Jose Gijon kid who was like he was a stud. Luis Salazar was a football and soccer stud.
So Luis Salazar he went to Barry. He went to play at Barry. Now he lives down in Miami.
Costa Rican kid.
Yes.
Yeah. Him and I are still like Facebook buddies. Adrian Mora was more of a football player, great kicker.
Went to Georgia Southern. Lives in Houston now as a mortgage broker. Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
That's some Titan scouting.
He got scapped, didn't like Gijon, and there was another kid on that Dalton team, like a defender, a Friday or something. And I remember somewhere in the recesses of my brain that like some Liga MX team had scouted them in Dalton and like invited them. And I think Friday left high school early or something. And then Gijon, he graduated, but then went and tried. I don't think he made it, but yeah, like there was a super high level of player there. Like, I mean, if you're getting plucked out of that to go try out for a Liga MX team,
especially at that time, 05.
At that time,
but
they knew.
But with that, we're going to get ready to go to commercial break. When we come back, we'll have more with Sebi Salazar.
Here's 2 of the nicest guys in the car business.
Hey, it's Eddie and Greg from North Georgia Toyota.
We're taking a little break from doing commercials, do a little fishing.
Hey, I'm not fishing, I'm catching.
All right, hang in there, don't let it get away.
Don't let your big deal get away at North Georgia Toyota.
Greg, somebody's gonna say, we can't do that. What do we say?
We say, oh yes, we can.
That's only at North Georgia Toyota in Dalton. Come see us. Bring it in.
Why should you choose OptiLink Internet?
When I work from home, I need fast, reliable internet. OptiLink provides that with no hidden fees.
Our customers depend on us for great service and quality. And that's why we chose OptiLink Internet.
As we serve the needs of our clients, we need reliable internet service. That's why I chose OptiLink as my hometown provider.
Some people say you can't get fast internet. I say, oh, yes, you can with OptiLink.
Experience the difference. Call today.
Welcome back to this special edition of Monday Night Football. Let's go ahead and keep the questions rolling. For Sebi, I think you got another one.
Yeah, well, Sebi, we were mentioning about you living in Dalton or here for about 13 months. Obviously, at your time, there wasn't many state championships won. But since 2013 to the present, I'll just give you the stats really quick. 14 state titles have been won since 2013 till now. One national NAIA title by Dalton State College. We do have a USL 2 or NPSL Premier League team here that has won multiple state championships in the last couple of years. So how, you leaving for a while, then coming back, how did Dalton Winfield County get back on your radar? And obviously, you and Todd were talking about. So how did it get back on your radar?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think everybody remembers the New York Times article. I'm sure it was a big deal down there in 2022. So a lot of people who knew of my my career path. If you you got to know me to know that I was in Dalton, right? It's so long ago, and but people who knew me knew I was a soccer guy were like, oh man, like this is crazy. My dad actually, I think, was the first person to send it to me. And he's like, "Oh, this article is like 10 years overdue." Because we
probably was
joking. Yeah, we've been joking about that for years. That it was this little, I don't know, soccer capital is kind of the headline, but this soccer haven, this soccer oasis. That really, I think, in the Southeast, my expectation was that didn't so much exist. Certainly in 2005. And so when I got there, I was incredibly happy to find the soccer that I did. What I would say is just like I'm bummed that this didn't exist when I was there, or that maybe I didn't start it. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking I would have loved, because I love playing in the Saturday and Sunday leagues. If there was like an NPSL or a UPSL or a USL League 2, or even one at that point in Dalton. Mm-hmm. Oh, I'd love to have given that a shot. My next stop in my journey was Winchester, Virginia, and I played on the PASL, which was like a semi-pro indoor league team there. And I was, another year or two past the expiration date. But I saw that there was like a Dalton United at one point. I was like, oh man, again, 10 years too late.
Yeah, the Dalton that just started within the last 4 or 5 years, Todd, and it just morphed from some guys that are former Dalton high school players, and then they say, you know what, let's try to do this, and they've expanded out.
They've been really successful.
A lot of success. I'm about to say, I remember watching a game against the Atlanta United team.
Yeah, that's right.
We got him good. Now, you talked a little bit about your beginnings in Dalton with WNN. Let's talk a little bit about that. Let's go away from Dalton. How did you go from the studios of WDNN on the Hill to the ESPN mothership in Connecticut? How does that journey go?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a lot like minor league baseball or kind of like lower level soccer to keep it more precise. You're playing in the 5th division and you kind of try to work your way up. And when you're young, you got time on your side. So after I'd been in Dalton for the 16 months, I felt like I had a good enough tape to say, hey, I'm ready for the next thing. And I got the next job, which was just one rung up the ladder. It was in Winchester, Virginia. So, not a bigger city, not much bigger market, but it was an ABC affiliate, and at the time WDNN was independent, so that was kind of like a next step up. From there, I went to DC, where I'm from. I worked for a regional network, but I was kind of in a little bit of an on-air, mostly off-air position. Eventually, I had to go to Houston to kind of do the full-time on-air position at that regional level. Proved I could do it there, and then came back to DC to my dream job. Like if you'd asked 2005, 6, Seb, when he's in Dalton, what's the dream job? It's get back to CSN Washington, Comcast Sportsnet Washington, which is our regional sports network that had DC United and the hockey team and the baseball team and the basketball team and all that, and stay there for 20 years. I had that job for 24 months, and ESPN called, and they said, do you just want to do soccer? And so that's something that, and it was actually a pay cut from what I was on, because it was part-time. Like, you want to do soccer part-time for us? Part-time at ESPN is never really part-time. It's full-time. It turns
so you
into
discovered, right?
Quick. Yeah, exactly. They don't work you a little there. If they get you working, you work a lot. But So yeah, it was kind of step by step by step. And, there was a decision there in 2016 when I made the move to ESPN, like, do I want to continue as the role that I'd kind of started in Dalton as this sports generalist, right? Like your Monday through Friday, sports host. Or did I want to like go down the soccer rabbit hole, go down the soccer path exclusively? And I'd been kind of kicking around the soccer exclusively path for a while in my own head. So when ESPN came and said it, it was like, yeah, I was ready to go. Right. And I never knew that it would lead to all this. But I knew it was soccer at ESPN, and that's something that when you're the kid who was late to high school every day for watching SportsCenter, you don't say no to that.
Right.
And segue into your question, Todd, about the Fútbol Americas.
Yeah, so you became the host of Fútbol Americas, which is like where I got introduced to you at. What are the origins of that show? And I'll kind of like combine a question here. You team up there with Herculez Gomez, another Mexican-American. What's it been like starting that show and working with him?
Yeah, so I would say the show, like just selfishly, is a show for me. It's a show for like literally 16-year-old Seb. After the 1998 World Cup, I was like, dude, I want to follow the American players and the Mexican players that are in Europe, and I got nothing. Mm-hmm. I remember like looking in Soccer America at La Liga at Espanol box scores to see if Germán Villa had played.
Oh, Germán Villa.
He played. Oh, he came on as a sub because he was like one of the Mexican guys that made a move after that World Cup. So this show has been percolating in my brain since I was a kid. Like, I want a show about our stuff. And like, there's a lot of people talking about soccer, but there was nobody, and certainly not a platform like ESPN, talking about our soccer. North America, which is what? It's American, it's Mexican, and it's women's games. Those are the biggest things in our space. And so I think in my head, it's kind of always been percolating to some extent, a soccer show like this or content like this. I'm also a huge fan of Liga MX, which means I watch Fútbol Picante every night, for about a decade. And that's a huge show in Mexico that is, incredibly relevant in the soccer conversation down there. So I had kind of that idea of creating a show that wasn't just part of the conversation, but maybe made the conversation as well. I thought we could use that in terms of generating interest for the sport. And then I met Herc. I showed up at ESPN in late 16, early 2017. He retires and joins ESPN at the same time. And we immediately hit it off in that way of like, we're the same age, a lot of the same background, but also very different background, very different life experiences. So we're like cousins in that way, I think, like, who love each other but also love to each other. Like, that's a dynamic, right?
Yeah,
love to just kind of give it to each
really
other.
Really good friends.
Reminds me of somebody.
Yeah, exactly.
We would never.
And so I think once I found him, then they started having us work together. We started developing the chemistry.
Right.
And, right before the pandemic hit, it was, the pandemic hadn't hit yet. It was 2019. I was coming off a year of travel, and I was like, hey, I want to do something that's going to allow me to stay home more, which Fútbol America has actually turned into a thing that traveled me a lot. But I said, hey, let's make a show. Let's try to make a show. And so we started on YouTube. We tracked the success of it kind of behind the scenes, and then we built a case. And we knocked on a lot of doors at ESPN and we pitched it ourselves, really. The backstory on Fútbol Americas is an incredible one. It's the thing I'm most proud of in my career. There's no other talent in the history of ESPN that has done more to bring a show to life than Herc and me on Fútbol Americas. I literally named it. Everything. I conceived it in every way possible. I've got the deck on my computer to prove it with the numbers. I was tracking the YouTube numbers to prove how great this idea was. So to see it come to life, to see it exist for 4 or 5 years, has just been incredible. And to see people in Dalton, Georgia, finding it, and being like, "Yeah, I love this thing," what an honor, what a treat. And then I
can't wait to keep talking about that.
That conflict, that comment.
We're gonna skip to break real quick. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
If you could live anywhere, where would it be? And what would it be like? Open up a world of possibilities when you sell your home and make those dreams real. At ColdwellBanker.com, you can get an instant estimate on your home, compare cost of living city by city, and learn more about our revolutionary seller's assurance program. So it really is true. Your dreams don't have to be just dreams. At ColdwellBanker.com.
Discover what a strong, locally owned community bank can do for you.
I'm Tyler Hudson of Shankly Elite Training in Dalton, Georgia. We train a huge number of the region's aspiring soccer players. I moved my business and personal banking to Builtwell 2 years ago. It's important for me to work with a community bank where I know them and they know me. Because they make things easy for me, my bank is Builtwell.
Member FDIC.
Welcome back to the special edition of Monday Night Football. Again, let's keep rolling with the questions for Sebi right here.
Sebi, you have a history of working in and around the women's game, going back to your mom kind of being the in your origin story of kind of coming up with the game, including you spent time with the U.S. Women's National Team, NWSL's Houston Dash. How has that led to your next adventure?
Yeah, so let me tell you about the next adventure. I'm going to be doing the studio show for ION around their Saturday night NWSL doubleheader. So every Saturday night starting this week through mid-October, with the exception of July because the NWSL takes a month off, we're going to have 2 NWSL games on what for most people is like Channel 11. You know, people don't know what ION is because they've not really been in the sports space, but it's right there with all the rest of your local channels. It's super accessible, which I think is one of the important parts of it being in this NWSL package. Like Amazon's an over-the-top platform. CBS and ESPN are putting the games on their over-the-top platform. So this is a way like a lot of people can see the NWSL in mass. And yeah, I mean, going back to my Houston days, I was the first play-by-play person for the Houston Dash when they launched the team in 2014, year 2 of the league. I was lucky enough to go to Rio, working for NBC to cover the U.S. Women's National Team. And, you know, big part of Fútbol Americas early on was the women's coverage. That's because we really felt like you can't have conversations about American soccer and not talk about like Alex Morgan.
Yeah,
you know, you're leaving points on the table at that point. So we really included that, and then had the opportunity to spin it off into Fútbol W in 2023 and kind of create Fútbol America's own, you know, show in the women's space, which I think is really cool, and it's obviously still going on over at ESPN. So I think I've kind of in a lot of ways been working to this. One of the things about loving North American soccer and working at ESPN is that in the last few years, they've kind of gotten out of that space, at least in terms of the rights. You know, our show talks about it, but we don't have the rights anymore. Right. I like being around games. You know, I like talking. I like doing studio. I like doing the talking head bit, but it's something about being a pregame show or a broadcaster, a play-by-play that I really enjoy. And so this offered me that opportunity, and I jumped at it. And I'm actually going to be in Georgia. It's their studios are in Atlanta, so I'm going to be in Georgia live.
Maybe a live appearance, maybe?
Yeah, let's go. We'll sort it out. We'll get on the horn. We'll sort it out. As long as you promise me a pickup game up there, I'm in.
We can get that going. So we just actually, where we record from at Matt Gadsden Community Center, we just opened up a new field. Atlanta United came up, and we had a first kick event here. So, yeah, we got a brand new court to play on.
Yeah, like right here, Atlanta United did a mini pitch unveil next door to us, and we had a couple Atlanta United former player or current players come out here, so we were able to get that. But really quick, you were talking about how you like the coverage and calling the games. So obviously, tell us what's going to be most exciting about you covering the NWSL, and can you give us some storylines to possibly watch this year within the NWSL?
Yeah, so for me, I think just from a coverage standpoint, like a broadcasting standpoint, you know, soccer doesn't really get pregame shows on television in America. There's not space for it. You know, if you watch a soccer game, I'm talking on linear television where everybody
MLS struggled for years, right? Never had one.
I mean, listen, and ESPN is guilty as this as anybody else, so I'm not, you know, speaking out against anybody, but, you know, these companies put a 2-hour window for a soccer game. That means a 5-minute pregame show, and if volleyball runs long or softball runs long, pregame show, gone. And I've been in that. I've been in that seat sitting there watching volleyball go on and on and on and watching my rundown collapse.
That did sound personal.
Yeah. So when ION said, hey, let's just give you a pregame. We got a 5-hour window, buddy. You like to talk? We got a 5-hour window with 2 games, but a half-hour pregame show and then a half-hour what they're calling a bridge show. So we're reacting to the game. We're talking to players live as they walk off the field, and then we're teeing you up for the next game, while talking about whatever the biggest points in the league are, because there's going to be some Fútbol Américas to it. There's going to be some, hey, what are the talking points around the league? What do you think? What do I think? So, creating something in this space with this platform, with this time, is something I'm really looking forward to. And as far as the storylines of the league, there's a million of them. I think we're so focused on the U.S. women's national team, especially coming off the Olympic gold medal year. Of course, Sophia Smith-Wilson now just announced she's pregnant, so she's off the table. But like a Trinity Rodman, what's she going to do with the full NWSL season? What's Mallory Swanson going to do with the full NWSL season? Keeping tabs on those players, as well as kind of the next player. So Sophia Smith's out of the picture now. Who's going to take that opportunity? So I view the league through a national team prism a lot of the time. But what's now happened in the league is they've now gone out and got some of the world's best players. They've gone and got like Rachel Kundananji, Barbara Banda, some of these African players that are literally, they're game changers. They jump off the screen at you. You say, I got like this player's worth a goal a game. Temwa Chawinga scored 21 goals last year. We've never seen that number in the league. So there's the national teamers, which are stars, and we want to follow them. But there's just a high level of international player in the league right now. It's a really, really strong case for the best women's soccer league in the world. And that we have that here in our own backyard. I mean, that's what we dream about, right? I think for a lot of the time, being honest, we dreamed that MLS would be that, or that we would have that in the men's space. We have it in the women's space. Let's embrace it, because it's not going to take a ton of money for NWSL to just dominate. Like if NWSL wants, and they get a little more support and they get a little more ratings, they're going to go out and they're going to say, Barcelona, Chelsea, you're paying these players peanuts. We're coming for everybody because we got American billionaires and money behind us, and we're just going to make the best league in the world. And if that happens, that'll be great for all soccer in the United States, not just women's pro, men's pro. Right. Having the best in your backyard, that matters, that inspires. And I think we're much closer to it, frankly, in the women's game than we are the men's. And really quick, you were talking about your pregame show. It sort of reminded me of the Micah Richard, Kate Abdul, Thierry Henry, show. So it sounds very exciting right there. So I'm looking forward to that. They're kind of they're the gold standard. I think everybody talks about the CBS Champions League show. Yeah. They do an amazing job for chemistry, and so they're the gold standard. We'll be trying to do our own thing, but also trying to get some of the plaudits that they do, because they seem to be kind of universally loved. Well, Sebastian, thank you so much for taking some time to come back to Dalton, Georgia, relive some old memories, share where you've been and where you're going. Exciting times ahead for you. Where can people find you on social media? Yeah, so at Sebi Salazar, F-U-T on Twitter, X. I'm on Instagram as well, Sebi Salazar. And those are pretty much the two platforms. You can see me still on some of the ESPN FC shows that I do for ESPN, because I'm still working for them. But just really excited about the coming years here. We got so much soccer coming between Club World Cup, there's a Women's World Cup bid maybe in 2031, Olympics in 28. It just never seems to stop. So it looks like we got some old soccer heads, some young soccer heads in this crew probably watching as well. Right. I feel like American soccer fans have waited a long time, and we're kind of finally in that golden era. Well, thanks again for joining us. Guys, stay with us, and we'll be right back with more Monday Night Football right after this commercial.
I'm Dr. Michelle Little.
And I'm Dr. Kayla Juba with Foundation Direct Family Care. We wanted to start a membership-based primary care practice.
But we're doctors, not business people.
I'm Kylie Roy with Biltwell Bank. I listen to their pitch and help them scale from startup to owning their own building.
Biltwell sees the value of small businesses in the community and supports their ingenuity.
Because every business owner doesn't have an MBA, our bank is Biltwell.
Member FDIC.
Who's up for some football?
That's not football. This is football.
And Eddie, there's one thing that we all can agree on.
That's it. North Georgia is the home for new and pre-owned vehicles.
And don't forget accessories, parts, service, and collision needs.
Claro que sí se puede. Come see us.
Hey, that's our part.
And welcome back to Fun Monday Night Football. And as we mentioned, I hope you guys enjoyed the interviews that we did with Sebi Salazar from Fútbol Americas. Thank you to Todd for getting on that. We've been working on that for over a year. Yeah. So it was a pleasure having him talk about everything Dalton and then obviously everything on the national level as well.
And we didn't even have time to get to his experiences in Russia and Qatar at the World Cup. Man, the guy's got stories, and he was just gracious enough to spend some real quality time with us. And, going back to his, you know what? I knew it was legit when he was talking about the sand on the fields behind Taco Bell.
That was the old, so if you don't recall, the fields were wider back then, and they would put sand on it, and you did not want to do a slide tackle on those fields because it would give you a big strawberry.
Everybody that's 35 or older that played on those fields has a scar on their knees from
and
the sand
heat
burn.
would just permeate from your feet would be on fire.
There's a rite of passage to slide tackle on, and he even teased a potential appearance again.
Oh yes, he's going to be. So he mentioned he'll be broadcast show from Atlanta. Here starting in April, so hopefully we can get them down here, do a live
Work
show.
your magic again, Tom?
Yeah, we'll see what we can do. Hey, I just wanted to touch base a little bit on last week's results. I kind of the games that I was watching, and one of the ones that stood out was, number one, it was a great win by Northwest girls over at Daresville.
Yep.
Dalton boys had a great victory. Was at 4 over Vestavia Hills. But to me, the one that stood out was the Southeast boys losing to Cass, and I only say that because now you're talking about like multiple losses in the same week to region teams.
Cass and Allatoona.
Yeah.
From what I've gathered, I've just been talking to people that are that within the program, but not like with the staff.
Sure.
They're just people that go to the games, and I did reach out. I was at church yesterday, and I asked someone that goes to all the games, and I was like, "So how did you see it?" I said, "Look, they played good in both games, but like the intensity isn't there. Like I think they're lacking that field general, that alpha dog.
So they're looking for somebody to step up and be a leader.
I think they're missing that someone on the field that says, "Hey guys, we need to step it up. We need to play to do that." The coaches can coach, but in the end, it's the player's responsibility to do that. And they've had a tough schedule. They started out on 2, and then now they got El Clásico. This is the only game they have this week.
Yeah.
And it's Friday, and it's a region game.
And it's the Carpet Classico. And I was going to say, you said they're maybe lacking that intensity. If it's intensity you want, it's intensity you need for a Classico.
Yeah.
Yes. So
we'll see how they respond. It'll be interesting. To me, it'll be definitely a gut check time for that Southeast team. Playing Dalton in what's going to be the first of 2 games. This one is for region. The next one is for Soccer City Cup. But we'll see how that plays out.
Then let's look. Northwest winning over Daresville. Southeast girls losing to Allatoona, but they beat Cass.
Yep.
Obviously, I think the way I'm looking at it now, Allatoona within region, region 4 in this region, I think they're probably going to be number 1. And then after that, it's going to be, this game between Dalton girls and Southeast has the potential to be who's going to be in second place.
Yeah, that might be the difference in hosting a first-round playoff game and then driving somewhere that you don't want to go.
So there's going to be a lot at stake this upcoming Friday.
I can't wait a Friday. I'm glad nobody's talked to me about plans or anything because I would have to cancel them.
And then also we have the Dalton girls win over Kennesaw Mountain, which we were we had that on our radar, and they come away, I think, with a 2-1 win. I think that's a great win. Anytime you play any of those teams that are, anywhere around the 285 corridor, and you get a win. And
then they beat a Woodland team, 6-2. So they've sort of righted their ship a little bit. And now they come in with a little bit of momentum versus this Southeast game. And then you have Dalton boys, winning over Vestavia Hills.
Continuing.
Jason Longshore was here to call that match again. He was here for the Atlanta first pitch unveiling, and then he's
a busy guy.
Drove a mile. He is a busy guy.
He might be the busiest man in Georgia soccer.
Yeah, I think
with everything that he does, from soccer down here to his high school soccer coverage on that he streams at Atlanta United. That man is busy.
And let's look in. Should we start talking about upcoming games?
I think we should. We got a good week today. The beginning and the end, I think, are the heaviest.
Yeah, so let me just pull up the upcoming games. I posted it already on our social media, but
I'll go ahead and get us started.
Go ahead, man.
All right, here we go. Tuesday, March 11th, this gets us kicked off. That's when this show should air. So we got Northwest girls traveling to Lafayette if you're not from around here. Dalton Academy versus Dade County. Murray County versus Ringgold. North Murray versus Union County. Dalton at Cartersville. Northwest at Lafayette. We're over to the boys now. Christian Heritage at Gordon Central, Dalton Academy versus Dade County, Murray County versus Ringgold, and Dalton versus Cartersville.
Beautiful. And I'll go ahead and talk about what we got in the middle of the week for Hump Day. On Wednesday, we got North Murray Union County doubleheader, both the girls and the boys at 5 and at 7 o'clock. Then on Thursday, we start off with Northwest versus Heritage girls. We go on to Cahola Creek versus North Cobb Christian for the girls. North Murray girls at Ridgeland as well. And then we continue it with Northwest versus Heritage boys. Then we continue with Cahola Creek versus North Cobb Christian boys. That school is giving me a lot of trouble today.
Are you wanting to say Knob Creek?
I want to keep saying North something Creek.
I didn't want to say Knob Creek. Like
anyways, Cahola Creek versus North Cobb Christian. And then at 7:30, North Murray at Ridgeland. And then what do you got for Friday's main event?
For Friday, man, we got Christian Heritage at Chattooga, both boys and girls. Dalton Academy, both boys and girls at Gordon Central. Cahola Creek playing at Rock Martin, boys and girls. The big one, Dalton at Southeast. This is region. Not Soccer City Cup implications. Then you have Christian Heritage at Chattooga boys, Dalton Academy versus Gordon Central boys, Murray County at Union County and the boys, and like I said, Todd, the big one. Anything there that's going to obviously besides El Clásico, you know, we can go into that a little bit more, but anything there.
I know it's Cahola Creek versus North Cobb Christian. I don't know anything about North Cobb Christian. What I can tell you is it's obviously in Cobb County. It's obviously a private school, so they're probably going to be pretty good. And they'll be looking to rebound off that loss they had this week to LFO. That went into overtime, lost in PKs. So they'll be looking to bounce back, and that'll probably be a pretty stiff test.
And I was had to update the schedules for this week and next week because there had been some changes. Cahola Creek has 3 games next week, and I think they're back to back to back.
Days back.
The Jacobo special once again.
Wow. So I do. Yeah, we'll pump the brakes on that a little bit because I did get an email just prior to us shooting, and Jacobo said he did have a schedule update, so maybe he broke it up.
What a perfect segue.
But I think it would be more Jacobo to add a 4th game than to take one away.
Well, so I went into Max Preps because I was updating the schedule because there's been a lot of moment. So I did go to Max Preps, and as of noon or 1 o'clock, the schedule was updated. So if something changed since then,
well, the thing we're really eyeballing is that Dalton game going to get rescheduled with Cahola Creek. That's what we're eyeballing.
Yeah, we'll need that. But as we have a little minute and a half left, hopefully it's a great show for you guys. We had the honor of having Sebby's, talk about it. Hopefully we can get him up here for an El Clásico match one day.
Dude, I'd love to get him up here for an El Clásico. I'd love to have him sit in the seat right here. I'd love to have him, start covering soccer in Georgia. I mean, the guy's just a talent and just so generous with his time. If you have never heard of him or you don't know, get on there, find his Football Americas episodes. They are spectacular. The guy he's edgy, he's sharp. He covers MLS. He's also a big El Tre fan.
Yeah.
So
El Tri.
El Tri.
I was going to say El Tre of what?
He's covered El Tri in the World Cup, so he's really savvy. I give him a follow.
And like I said, really, we got a minute left before we get off air. Let's just touch on the Dalton Southeast game.
I'd hate to be repetitive. I'd hate to beat a dead horse. But, I mean, I think there's so much riding on this, more than just the region game, more than just, El Clásico, especially for Southeast. I mean, I think this is the test of the season by far, and they need it. They need it.
How many times in a true rivalry have you seen throw the records out, you say it, and the underdog pops up and has a surprise? I mean, this is Southeast's chance to totally wreck.
It can turn the season. It can turn the season.
Both boys and girls have to come out. The girls a little more leeway, but on the boys' side, the pressure's there. 100%. But with that, we're wrapping up, and we want to say thank you for watching us on Monday Night Football. Tune in for next week as we cover all the action that happened this weekend, and maybe we will have a special guest. Maybe we won't. But until next week, thank you very much.
If you could live anywhere, where would it be? And what would it be like? Open up a world of possibilities when you sell your home and make those dreams real. At ColdwellBanker.com, you can get an instant estimate on your home, compare cost of living city by city, and learn more about our revolutionary seller's assurance program. So it really is true. Your dreams don't have to be just dreams. At ColdwellBanker.com.
Why should you choose OptiLink Internet?
When I work from home, I need fast, reliable internet. OptiLink provides that with no hidden fees.
Our customers depend on us for great service and quality. And that's why we chose OptiLink Internet.
As we serve the needs of our clients, we need reliable internet service. That's why I chose OptiLink as my hometown provider.
Some people say you can't get fast internet. I say, oh yes you can with OptiLink.
Experience the difference. Call today.
Discover what a strong, locally owned community bank can do for you.
I'm Tyler Hudson of Shankley Training in Dalton, Georgia. We train a huge number of the region's aspiring soccer players. I moved my business and personal banking to Builtwell 2 years ago. It's important for me to work with a community bank where I know them and they know me. Because they make things easy for me, my bank is Builtwell.
Member FDIC.
Here's two of the nicest guys in the car business.
Hey, it's Eddie and Greg from North Georgia Toyota.
We're taking a little break from doing commercials, do a little fishing.
Hey, I'm not fishing, I'm catching.
All right, hang in there, don't let it get away.
Don't let your big deal get away at North Georgia Toyota.
Greg, somebody's gonna say, we can't do that. What do we say?
We say, oh yes, we can.
And it's only at North Georgia Toyota in Dalton. Come see us. Bring it in.
To advertise your business on TV, contact Elliott Media at 706-529-4237.